His net worth is now over $150 million, or $225 billion today.
The story of how John D Rockefeller became the first billionaire in history is not just about oil power or wealth. It is about vision, discipline, control, and unshakable ambition. Rockefeller was not born into riches or privilege. He was born in 1839 in a modest home in Richford, New York. His father was a traveling salesman who often disappeared for long periods, leaving the family to fend for themselves. His mother, on the other hand, was deeply religious, frugal, and hardworking. From an early age, Rockefeller learned the values of saving, planning, and working with purpose. These early lessons became the foundation of an empire that would eventually dominate the global energy market and change the course of capitalism. Rockefeller's path to greatness began with accounting. He took a keen interest in numbers and trained himself in the art of bookkeeping. By the age of 16, he landed his first job as an assistant bookkeeper, earning 50 cents a day. He treated the position with the seriousness of a CEO, keeping meticulous records, analyzing every penny, and constantly looking for ways to improve efficiency. His obsession with discipline and numbers set him apart from others even at this early stage. He would later say that the best investment he ever made was in his own personal development and work ethic. Rockefeller saw order where others saw chaos, and he understood that money is not just earned, it is managed. The real turning point came during the American Civil War. While the country was divided and bleeding, Rockefeller saw opportunity. He avoided the battlefield and instead focused on the one commodity that would soon fuel the post-war economy: oil. At that time, oil was a chaotic business. It was extracted, refined, and transported with no standard practices, no consistency, and a lot of waste. The industry was ripe for consolidation, and Rockefeller saw it clearly. He started the Standard Oil Company in 1870, and with it he began a methodical process of bringing order to the wild world of oil. He did not chase glory. He chased efficiency, stability, and control. One of Rockefeller's most powerful tactics was vertical integration. He realized that by owning not just the oil wells, but also the refineries, the transportation networks, the storage facilities, and even the barrel-making factories, he could control every stage of the process. This allowed him to reduce costs, eliminate middlemen, and ensure consistent quality. While his competitors were cutting corners or battling over transport fees, Rockefeller was quietly building a machine that moved like clockwork. He could afford to lower his prices below everyone else's, not to destroy them, but to absorb them. And that is exactly what happened. Standard Oil grew by buying out or underpricing its rivals, becoming a behemoth that refined more than 90% of America's oil at its peak. He was not content with dominating one piece of the puzzle. Rockefeller understood that true power lies in controlling the entire ecosystem. That is why he negotiated exclusive deals with railroads to transport his oil at lower rates, giving him a massive cost advantage over his competitors. He also established secret rebates and kickbacks that made Standard Oil nearly impossible to compete with. These practices may seem unethical by today's standards, and they were controversial even back then. But they were not illegal at the time, and Rockefeller used every legal means to gain leverage. He believed in playing hard, but within the rules of the game as they were written. Now here is something most people miss. Rockefeller was not a flashy spender. He was not buying yachts or gold chains. He reinvested almost every dollar back into the company. That discipline allowed him to grow even during recessions and market downturns. When others were panicking, he was expanding. During the Panic of 1873, while businesses collapsed, Standard Oil grew. Rockefeller saw every crisis as an opportunity to gain more ground, and that attitude of calm dominance made him almost untouchable. He had built not just a company, but a fortress. As Standard Oil became more powerful, it also attracted more scrutiny. By the early 1900s, the U.S. government, under pressure from public opinion and competing interests, accused the company of forming a monopoly. In 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil must be broken up into 34 smaller companies. But here is the twist. That breakup did not destroy Rockefeller. It made him even richer. Why? Because he owned shares in all of the new companies. Some of those spin-offs eventually became giants in their own right, ExxonMobil, Chevron, and more. His wealth diversified and multiplied. At the time of his retirement, John D Rockefeller's net worth was over $1 billion, which in today's terms would be, well, over $400 billion adjusted for inflation. That made him not just the richest man of his time, but the richest person in modern history by many estimates. Yet, despite this unimaginable wealth, Rockefeller was not driven by money alone. He was obsessed with order, control, and legacy. He famously said, "I always tried to turn every disaster into an opportunity." And he did, not because he had special luck, but because he prepared with relentless discipline. Let us pause for a moment here. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to build empires while others barely survive? Why do certain individuals born with no more talent or privilege than anyone else rise to become legends? The answer is not just intelligence. It is consistency, vision, timing, and the ability to see beyond immediate gratification. Rockefeller is proof of that. After his retirement, Rockefeller turned to philanthropy in a way the world had never seen. He created the Rockefeller Foundation, which invested in education, public health, scientific research, and the arts. His money helped eradicate diseases like hookworm and yellow fever. He funded the University of Chicago, transforming it into a world-class institution. He donated hundreds of millions of dollars to causes he believed could lift humanity, and he did it not to buy favor or fame, but because he believed that great wealth came with great responsibility. Long before it became fashionable, Rockefeller was practicing what many now call impact investing. His life, however, was not without contradiction. Critics called him a ruthless monopolist who crushed smaller businesses and manipulated markets. Supporters called him a visionary who brought stability, scale, and innovation to a chaotic industry. The truth is, both are valid. Rockefeller was not a saint, but he was not a villain either. He was a complex figure who played the game of capitalism with a precision few could match. He was feared, respected, envied, and admired, but above all, he was effective. Rockefeller's strategies are still studied in business schools and boardrooms today. His approach to vertical integration is now a textbook move. His use of scale to reduce cost and dominate the market is echoed in modern tech giants. His belief in efficiency, reinvestment, and long-term vision is mirrored in the strategies of billion-dollar companies across the globe. He did not just influence the oil industry, he influenced capitalism itself. Another often overlooked part of his journey is his mental discipline. Rockefeller was known for his calm demeanor. He rarely lost his temper. He avoided public attention, dressed modestly, and lived with an almost monastic sense of purpose. This mental control allowed him to make tough decisions without being driven by ego or emotion. In a world that rewards loud voices and quick fame, Rockefeller remained quiet, focused, and consistent. That is a lesson that holds more value today than ever. By the end of his life, Rockefeller had created something few people ever achieve: complete financial freedom, a lasting legacy, an impact that reached far beyond his lifetime. He lived to be 97 years old, outliving many of his rivals and critics. His fortune shaped generations of philanthropy, business strategy, and public policy. And even now, decades after his death, his name still stands as a symbol of what is possible when vision meets discipline. Here is the question to ask yourself today. Are you building something with the long game in mind? Are you setting up systems that work while others sleep? Are you investing in skills and knowledge that compound over time? Rockefeller did not become the world's first billionaire by accident. He became one by design. His story is not just history, it is a blueprint for anyone willing to delay gratification, to think in decades rather than days, and to focus not just on money, but on mastery. If you found this story compelling and you want to understand how wealth, power, and legacy truly work behind the scenes, then you need to watch our next video. It dives into another empire builder who took an entirely different path, yet ended up with similar results. The patterns are clearer than ever, and they might just change the way you think about your own future.